A Virginia mom is suing the school district for policy changes after her 5-year-old son was put in a chokehold. In 2018, Pamela Ononiwu was picking up her son when she saw a school resource officer placing him in a chokehold. The reason: the child was allegedly singing too loud in class, and the officer was called to make him stop. The mom and 2 other parents filed suit against the Fairfax County school system, citing psychological trauma and physical pain were being inflicted on students with disabilities. The school staff settled out of court and added additional training for staff. DeMario, kids singing too loud, you put them in a headlock, a chokehold?
You know, it's just ridiculous. And again, this is just what we see all the time across the nation. I had a case recently in Seattle, Washington, where I had a black kid, 11 years old, who was autistic, and they got upset with him and put him out in the cold weather for 3 or 4 hours and laughed at him. This is happening across this nation when it comes to black kids, brown kids, and kids with special needs. I wonder if this little 5-year-old had any type of special needs, because they're treated really bad. I'm really happy to hear that they had good counsel. Sounds like they were able to get a settlement, but more importantly, get policy changes. And I hope they were able to get that particular officer terminated. We were able to get the teacher that locked out my client terminated, and that's what has to happen. It has to be swift accountability. It has to hurt the pockets of those who causes the harm, and it also has to show these people that we will not stand for this. A 5-year-old being placed in a chokehold, that is just unconscionable. It's ridiculous, and I'm so glad to hear that people were held accountable.
This is the thing that we keep seeing, Scott, and that is with these resource officers, their job is not to further traumatize students. I mean, you know, the actions that we keep seeing this hope happen all over again. This is why people are calling for a lot of these cops to be removed from schools.
Exactly. And these resource officers, their powers need to be severely restricted, but they're not, actually. These are police officers. In Washington, D.C., 20 plus years ago, I had a case where the resource officer was referring to the kids in the hallway by the N-word. They got tired of it, and they jumped on him, assaulted him, and took his gun. The government would eventually walk away from the case and dismiss the case that they brought charges against 2 or 3 of the leaders of this group of kids. And so you're absolutely right. But Roland, when we get these cases, right, when you report on these cases, let me tell you something. They don't see us. You have to see me as a human being in order to treat me humanely. And when you report on these stories like chokeholds for the 5-year-olds or crazy-ass white people doing crazy things, right, or the police beating up black men and women simply because they refused a police order, they don't see us. So if they don't see us, they treat us less than human. They treat us like animals, if you will. It is unjustifiable. You and I, or they rather, will treat a dog better than how we're treated by the police in many instances. And so we've got to, it's more than retraining. It's about where this racism comes from. It's not genetic. Nobody's born with a racism gene, as we've often said and our leaders have said. And so they're trained that way. They're taught that way from their environment or at home. That's where we got to get to, because otherwise they're going to continue not to see us.
You know, and let me just jump in real quickly on this. It's something that was so important. And sorry, Robert, but this is very important. They're not resource officers. They are police officers. And one of the things that the police have done a really good job, and Republicans in general, is how they frame things. It's the same with officer-involved shooting. That is to try to make it seem like what it really is. It's the state killing somebody or the state shooting someone. So these are just police officers with extraordinary power. They should not be the first people called when you're having an issue with a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, things of that nature. These people are bullies many times. We saw the case of the young lady, and Scott is exactly right. The young lady, when they took her out of the chair and slammed her on the ground, because he didn't see her as a little girl. He saw her as a other than. And that is important. But we got to change our own terminology. Not resource officers, police officers, not officer-involved shootings, police shooting of a person, the state murdering someone.
And they're not trained to be resource officers.
Robert, Robert?
And you know, to that point, I think that's when we got caught up in this conversation around quote unquote defund the police last year, and Republicans used that to their political advantage. But in reality, this is what we're talking about, which is de-escalating situations. That if a child is singing too loud, maybe you have them talk to the social worker to find out why they're expressing themselves in this way. And often I use the analogy of what would happen if this was a little white girl named Lily White. What would happen if this was a golden retriever? I mean, realistically, if there was a golden retriever that they saw that it was barking too loud and somebody put it into a chokehold, it would be the leading story. Nancy Grace would be out
He'd
there
be
right
arrested.
now. They'd be looking for him like they were looking for Gabby and all this other stuff. But because it was a young black boy and they see the dehumanization of them, they do not have that same empathy. This goes towards the way that our school system is often the feeder system for our prison pipeline, because they start criminalizing children at 5 years old, put them into the system, so by the time they're 17 or 18, they are ripe to go to their next stage, which is not college, but into the criminal industrial complex. So we have to start reevaluating the people we put in charge of raising our children for so many hours a day, and creating a system where they're not simply continuing to be over-criminalized and over-prosecuted for the least bit of expression as a human being.
Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Betty is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now, she's free to become Bear Hug Betty. Settle in, kids. You'll be there a while. Ooh, where you going?
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?